All right, this is the May 21st Flood and Erosion Control Board meeting. It's now 7 o'clock, and we are officially starting the meeting. I'd like to go around and just have everyone say who is in attendance. This is Becky Bunnell, Chair.
Yeah, Don Lamberti, Vice Chair.
Dick Mahusky, Secretary.
Chuck Abercrombie by phone. Oh, sorry, Peter.
Oh, sorry about that. Go ahead, please.
Chuck Abercrombie by phone.
Peter Wiswell by phone member.
Member of the public. No?
He's allowed to sit on the board, I think. It was, Jen said something weird.
Until the replacement? Oh, okay. I see.
Yep. O'Brien, recording secretary. All right, so I'm calling the meeting to order. As I said, we'll go to item 1, which is to hear, consider, and act upon 2 sets of minutes. Our regular minutes from April 16th and our special meeting of April 30th. Does anyone have any comments or edits on either of those sets of meetings?
No.
I have none.
Anyone else?
No.
No comments? Does anyone want to make a motion to approve both sets of meetings?
Okay, motion to approve both sets.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
So moved. Let's move on to item number 2. So, Peter, first of all, we want to thank you so much for your service to the board over the years, and we're very sorry that you are moving on to Vermont and greener pastures. We will miss you, but thank you so much for attending today. And I don't know if you'll you're welcome to attend until we get a replacement. But I don't know if you can actually vote. I'm not sure what the procedure is. Did you get any guidance from Jen Carpenter or the town clerk?
What I received from Jen was simply, if you are able to attend until we have a replacement, we would appreciate it. There's no reference to voting.
Be a member. So then I guess you'd still be a member until we get a replacement then. I'll confirm that with her and the town clerk.
Okay.
So we really would appreciate it.
What does the charter say? Did you look at the charter, Peter? What is the actual language?
He's done the official resignation.
Yeah,
letter.
but it says, and I don't know, I don't recall, but it says something about effective on the date stated in the resignation letter, or if not, the date received by the town clerk. It says something like that.
So there is something. There is.
Yes.
But I don't know.
Well, then Dick, I would first, I'm available to attend until a replacement is found. And mindful of your comments, I would interpret that as meaning that I am a Flood and Erosion Control Board member, inclusive of voting, until you find a replacement. But
yeah, and I mean, I have no problem with that. I'm just wondering what's the
fine. But Dick, it really, I think it's only going to apply if there's a need to have a quorum. Beyond that, I think the votes are almost always unanimous. So it's really just to establish a quorum. And so I'm available.
Yeah, because we would still need a quorum of 3.
And I can't. I mean, I can't.
That would mean that we'll only have one person not show up.
I can't imagine a vote that's going to be so meaningful that it will be overturned in the Supreme Court because our charter says
I would agree with that.
So it's all moot.
Becky, if I may add to your kind comments, I've been on the Flood and Erosion Control Board now for several years. I have not always been the most diligent member, have not attended as many meetings as I would have liked to have, but it has truly been a privilege serving with each of you and discussing the points that we've discussed. I think the Flood and Erosion Control Board is a great agency acting on behalf of the town, and it has been a privilege, my privilege, to work with each of you, and I thank you for allowing me to have been a member. And even after I'm off, we still have property on the beach. I'm delighted to assist in any way I can, and I may even end up being a Fairfield resident again. But in the meantime, a sincere thank you to everybody.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to move us on to the next agenda item. Peter, I will check with the town clerk whether you are still a voting member, but I do appreciate your willingness to continue on if you are able to help us make a quorum. I thank you so much for that.
Yep. Certainly.
So our next agenda item is update on the status of active projects. As I was mentioning before we started the call, unfortunately, I did not get a large status update as I normally can get from Bill. So I don't have any major project updates other than Perry's Green seems to be moving forward.
There's action down there.
Yeah, there's people doing stuff.
Yeah.
Which is good. I think everyone knows they needed additional funds, which I believe we got from the ARPA funds, because we did a timber bulkhead as opposed to a steel one that it cost a little more, I think. And I think all the permits and everything are ready for Riverside, although maybe that's the piece you have, Dick, knowledge of that. But I think that is going to proceed, although it has not started yet from the last.
Well, it has started, the Riverside Drive. Well,
I drove by there. I didn't see any action.
Well, you didn't see them digging the hole.
Oh, good.
They have capped off the gas line that runs across the bridge at both ends, so the gas line is out of the construction area. UI has run the high voltage lines by putting in another pole closer to the site. The electrician has put in the transformer and some major disconnects there, so the electricity is close to being there. And other than that, so yes, they are getting ready.
Excellent.
More than that, I don't have.
Penfield, I can give a brief update on Penfield, which is that there were some very, very preliminary next steps, and that they have a $25,000 reserve fund in their contractor's bid to be able to protect the site in the event of a major storm. So I think they were going to circle back with the contractor to understand what our options are, because we will still be under construction until spring of 2025. Wow. And I believe they were going to understand, what they could do in the event. This is supposed to be a very active hurricane season. So in the event that we do get a, major storm, what can they do to protect that site? So they are looking at options, is my understanding.
I wonder if they could take some of that. They have some huge sand piles.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I think they could make a berm.
Get a front end loader and have the guys work for 4 days and relocate that sand to where the fence is now on the water side. That'll go a long way.
I think that could be what they're going to do. Marina? Oh, I didn't know that. I don't have any update on the dredging of Pine Creek, although last time we talked, I believe that was permit ready to apply for getting the permit renewed. So the big next steps on that will be actually getting the permit renewed, but more importantly, securing funding to actually do the dredging, which could be several $100,000. And I'm not sure the residents are going to all pony up when it's time to do that.
No.
So
don't count on that one.
It'll be interesting to see what the next steps are on that. I think Alex, is it Alexis? Who was the engineer who was working on it? Who works?
Alexis from Greenwich. I think it's Alexis. Yeah.
Anyway, she, I think, had some confidence that there could be some grant money available. So if she has sources for grants, excellent, and hopefully that can cover part, or if not most, of the cost.
There's and I would just note that there is a Board of Finance quarterly review meeting tonight at 8:00.
7:30.
7:30. And if the quarterly status of the capital plan is available online in their backup. I mean, it's a long document, but it's interesting looking through that. And there are some commentaries, current commentary from May on some of the projects. The ARPA funds are also a statement of the current status of the ARPA funds as of May 15th. And Perry's Green bulkhead, it has $114,000 left from the total available that's not committed. So there is money there. The other interesting thing to me, ARPA funds has the Rooster River detention areas, which was $3.25 million. And the note at, I guess this is an update as of 5/15. And the note says, as per the 1/31/24 Board of Selectmen meeting, it was agreed upon that this project would be given another few months for the review, comments, feedback, approval from the Army Corps of Engineers. Public comment period ended, awaiting response from Army Corps of Engineers. If no progress is made, the remaining funds will be reallocated. It doesn't say reallocated to what I believe, but I believe in conversation that was the paving. That would go to the slush fund of paving, because Lord knows we have enough paving to do. And I'm just wondering. So,
but Bill,
if on 131, it's been like 4 months. How much is a few months?
Had that in his email, which, if I read it correctly,
okay.
I thought it said that he didn't think we had it in time to get all the permits and get it committed, because it has to be committed by December.
Right.
And I think I could have misread that, so don't quote me on
I don't recall reading it. But.
That and he said he was going to try to fund it through bonding, but release those monies is what I thought.
Okay.
He said in his newsletter, but I will go back and confirm that.
And then the other thing is that the tide gate replacement at the railroad bridge over near Old Dam Road, the RFP for that is supposed to be completed by race this month, and I don't know exactly what that means, but that's ready to go out on the street for bids. So we've got the Turney Creek Tide Gate that's underway. We got Perry's Green. It's not significant as a flood and erosion control, but it's just to keep that facility from decaying further. And then we have the railroad bridge tide gates that seem to be coming right along.
It's good.
Any other updates on active projects that anyone has? It looks like I already did Penfield Resiliency as part of, which is item 4 under 3. So I'm going to skip to item 5, which is update on the board's request to the Board of Selectmen for a resolution to modify our board's powers and duly details by means of a new ordinance. So just to give some background, Chuck is taking the lead on this for our board. I was asked to reach out to Liz on the RTM and just get a sense from her whether she would support a resolution at the RTM level, and she seemed very positive towards it and said that she wanted to chat with her other coalition members and also talk to some of the Republican coalition members and see if there's a sense that this is something that they'd all be willing to move forward with. And I believe she has started that process and is working towards that. But I have not heard that is definite yet. Chuck, I don't know if you've heard anything more.
I haven't beyond the last round of emails that you initiated. I was waiting for the budget thing to settle, but you jumped in there, and the response you got mentioned a Zoom call with Bill Gerber that this was going to be part of. Do you know whether that happened?
I don't. I never heard anything back since those emails that you and I were.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's where I dropped off as well.
Okay. So, I think that since they're probably in the middle of a lot of the budget stuff, that this is not high on their list, but I do think it's moving forward. So I think we just need to kind of gently remind them on a regular basis. But there was certainly an openness to it, I think is what I would say. Okay, item 6, Don and Dick we're on point to look at the
Yeah.
marsh migration
Yeah.
and the College Place residents.
That's kind of old news. The only follow-up for that is that I asked Mr. Marsilio, Mr. Gerber, Mr. Bishop to convene a meeting of the, whatever it's called, the Marsh Migration Monitoring Committee or something. And I hadn't heard back from any of them. I followed up a couple of weeks ago, still haven't heard anything back. And this I'm going to pursue this a little farther because the topic of how to set the self-regulating tide gates, what land side, marsh side water level is the right level to shut off at, that is also applicable to the Turney Creek project that is just starting. And I looked at the plans and specs for Turney Creek, and they kind of use the same scheme and closing points that were done for the Pine Creek tide, self-regulating tide gates. So I don't know what the righteous number is for that, but I'm thinking that project should have a similar component of where to set the self-regulating tide gates and adding them to this same committee. I mean, it seems like we need the, engineering and conservation to pay attention to our tide gate settings on a routine basis.
Right.
So I'm going to pursue that a little bit more.
Okay, great. Anything else about the marsh migration or anything else?
That's all I had on that.
Okay, then let's move on to item 7, which is update on the new 2024 Master Flood Erosion Mitigation and Resilience Plan. So we had the authorization verbally from the Board of Selectmen and from engineering to reallocate some of the money that was for the beach club study, the study in front of the beach club, which was $100,000, to reallocate 25, potentially up to 50,000, but at this point 25, towards retaining Resilient Land and Water, which is David Murphy's group, to take on the task of supporting the Flood and Erosion Control Board and engineering and getting to a tight RFP, and also then supporting them as we go through the bidding process and firm selection process. That is being held up because finance needs to issue a new accounting code so that they can transfer the money from one to the other. It's been a month now, but we still don't have an accounting code. So I sent another note just saying, hey, any update on the accounting code? Let's see where we are. Seems like we could put a code in there.
So is Adam Tulin, purchasing agent, is he ready to send out the RFP, or does it still need another iteration?
That PO has not been issued to Resilient Land and Water yet.
Oh,
the PO
even there.
To hire
I see.
David
I get
Murphy
it. I get
is
it.
still not officially done. It's been vetted through the lawyers. Adam's done everything he can do. I mean, purchasing has done their part on this. Bill's done their part on this. Finance apparently needs to issue a code for them to bill it to. It's a budget line item code, if I understood it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So that is hopefully going to happen soon, and then we will issue the PO. But luckily, we've actually been doing a bit of work on it. So we will be in a very good position once that PO is official. We will be able to actually, so there another, I believe I forwarded it. Resilient Land and Water did forward a second.
Is it V3A?
I took his changes and accepted most of them, so I will send that out as what we consider are all but final. And if everyone could please on this call review it one last time, I think it's actually ready to go. I think it's in good shape. He added a lot. He added a lot of what he was supposed to add about things like, what kind of modeling would we be doing, what would we be asking. He added a lot of clarification language to make sure that we get tight proposals from all of the people who are going to bid on this, and we won't have one firm doing it one way and not one another, and have to be comparing apples to oranges. So it seems like it's in a pretty good space. It still will need to. I know First Selectman Gerber is very interested in this project, so I'm sure he will want to see the final version before it goes out, and Bill Hurley obviously has to approve it as well. He's seen the iteration versions, but not the final. So I'm kind of waiting till we get to the budget code before I send that around for final approval. But I will send it to Flood and Erosion so that we can all, if everyone could take find some time in the next week or just later this week to just review it and add any final comments.
Sure.
But that would be good. Then the next part of the project will be securing a budget for it. I was told that we need to have a budget in place before we can send an RFP out, but I don't know if that's correct. Is that correct? You need to have the funding.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that to Mr. Gerber, who said he didn't think that was true. And I said, I was told it was.
Yeah, common sense.
So he is going to...
Well, yeah, because, Bill Hurley has shared with me a couple of times, and I don't know if it's a written policy in purchasing or what, but the practical aspect is you don't want to get the reputation on the street for crying wolf and for, picking their brains to get a budget together kind of thing. So you don't want to make the potential bidders spin their wheels for nothing. You have to be ready to go.
So what I
could change it, because there's a whole bunch of things that could happen.
What I proposed to Mr. Gerber is that if the Rooster River funding doesn't go through, and they do have to pull that 3.2, that we allocate some portion of that to this study, as opposed to having to go for bonding. I don't know if he'll do that, but that was my recommendation. So that there's a couple pieces that need to fall into place for this, but hopefully we will solve those and start to move this forward. Any other questions on that? Okay, let's move on to item 8, which is any other business which will come before the board. So I have only one thing, which is that on the advice of Mr. Grauer, I had gone to the town. I talked to John Marsilio and John Cattell to see if we could take and stockpile some of the sand that washes onto the roads during major storms and stockpile it for a week or two so that residents can come and get that sand and put it back on their beaches. And we talked about where we would put it, because you can't just put it on people's property or on private property. You can't leave it on the road because there's a safety issue. So we talked about some space in the Penfield parking lot that's on the, not on the coast side, but on the street side. There's sort of a space where we talked about where we could put it. Apparently that space is ministered by Parks and Rec. So I need to talk to Parks and Rec and get their okay to allow for sand to be stockpiled there for a couple weeks while residents come get it. So I have not done that yet, but I will do that. But that's good news.
How much sand are you talking about?
So...
Dump trucks worth?
Easily. Easily.
8 truckloads, 6 truckloads.
I mean, during Sandy,
it's a fair amount.
During Sandy, it was probably 6 to 8 truckloads, at least. During this last nor'easter, which was pretty bad, I would say that maybe there were 2 truckloads. I'm not sure, but the problem is there's a lot of shells in some of these truckloads.
Yeah,
So people would have to, decide what they wanted to bring out. But if I know several residents did end up getting a special permit from DEEP to be able to redo their beaches after that storm.
Did they import sand or bring it up from the below
They brought it up from below line.
That's interesting.
For below the coastal jurisdiction, they were given. You're allowed to ask DEEP for special permission in a circumstance like that, and they gave them a 1-week window, I think, to do the work.
Okay.
And I think 2 or 3 houses did indeed do that.
Well, that's good.
Hey, Becky, after Sandy, didn't a number of people do that?
After Sandy, a lot of people took the sand on the road and moved it back because DPW was not as quick to take it away. This time, DPW had it away within the first, by the morning, pretty much. They were very quick to get it up. But in Sandy, it was multiple days before they could get all the sand up, and a lot of the residents took their sand and put it back on the beach.
And I think it did not include getting permits from DEEP.
No, Sandy was a named storm, So Sandy, as a named storm, you're allowed to do that. You get a period of time. Deep's coast, if those of you who attended Deep's coastal permitting and regulatory session that was held in the Fire Training Center back in April would learn that you're allowed to actually move sand from below the coastal jurisdiction line up onto your property above the high tide mark during a certain period of time. And that is from, I believe, I'm going to say October 1 to April 1 or something. So during the off season, but you can't do it during horseshoe crab mating season, and there might have been some other time you can't do it. But once
Has to be a named storm to do that?
No, that can be any time. You can shift sand from. It has to be above the low tide mark, but you can move it from between the low tide. Usually, you can't do anything below the coastal jurisdiction line.
Right.
But during the off season, you can move sand from the low tide area up to your property. You can't do that during the summer, unless and if you do it during the summer, you can only do it if there's a named storm or if you get special permission that these homeowners got.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I learned a lot in that session. It's worth reading that permitting book.
And there was some question about whether that session was recorded and a video would be made available.
I don't know if I ever I didn't follow up on that.
Somewhere I saw that was a possibility.
That would be nice to have if it was. I wonder who I reach out to at Deep.
You said you had the name of some of the Deep people that were there. They would be the logical ones.
I did take their card, and
you were
at
you lost it. You filed? No, I'm sorry. I misspoke. You filed it away.
Circular file.
I'm not quite sure where I filed it, but I'm sure I'll find it. But I might be able to recognize it. I mean, they had people from multiple departments at Deep. So if I just go back to, Emmeline probably. Yeah. I'm not sure who organized it.
I was going to mention that Emmeline.
I might just go back to
Emmeline would cut to the chase. Oh yeah, Charlie and Joe and Janine and Mary were there.
Anyways, but that is my only other business that I wanted to update everyone on.
Okay. Flood and Erosion, we received an email from Lynn Osterman on April 18th. And she sent it to First Selectman and John Marsilio and Tim Bishop and to our board. And the point of her letter was there is a storm drain grate at the end of her driveway. She lives on a cul-de-sac on Windermere Street, 332 Windermere Street.
Where's that?
If you go up Stratfield Road, when you get to, is it Assumption Church on Stratfield Road? When you get to Assumption Church, it's up the hill from there. So it drains, all that land drains right down to the Rooster River. So her point is that over the years, the flooding there has gotten more intense with the storms. And what can you guys do about it? She talked to engineering. Her husband talked to engineering a number of times, but he has since passed away. So I had sent a copy of this to Bill Hurley when we got it in, and I followed up with him late last week, and he was going to have Raymond, one of his new engineers, look into this, and if nothing else, just start a dialogue with Mrs. Osterman to just let her know that they're looking into it.
Is that what this is?
Yes, that's what that is. Bill's initial thought was that that's just a dry well, because they didn't have any storm sewers in that area for whatever reason. So I don't know where that stands, but I feel it's important for us to follow up when the few occasions that residents do reach out to us. It's best if we can make something happen to maybe not satisfy them, but just tell them that we love them and we're thinking about them.
And offer them possible solutions. I mean, if there might be other things they could do on their property to, channel stormwater in a way that would minimize your flooding.
And then the other thing is that we have received the final report on the railroad bridge, on the railroad underpass flooding in town. We've received that final report. I'm going to put that in our files and documents section online. But then we also just got this benefit cost analysis. And I think, Becky, you sent that to me saying put this
That was part of that.
online.
That was part of that same.
That Excel spreadsheet is so confusing, and it's like, what is this trying to tell me? Did you digest that, or did you just send it to me?
It goes with that study, and I did not digest it in full. I did read the study, which was quite illuminating. But.
It seemed, I believe, there's like a summary table, a little summary table with a couple of explanations it could establish what the ranking is on the cost-benefit analysis. So I'm going to figure out how to meld the important part of that spreadsheet onto the document, and they do have a written introduction to the BCA. So
I'll go back and relook at it too, and if I can give you any thoughts, I would be happy
to. And then
to.
What did we just put on?
Well, the other thing we have to do is we have to go and do all of the files and documents in the RFP on our site, because I bet half of them are not on our site. At least half of the documents.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Are not on our document site.
And it escapes me which one I just loaded up, but Jen Carpenter helped me with that, and she did it just exactly right, and I expect it didn't take her a lot of time.
If she's willing to help us.
Yes, she is.
We could just send her all, because I think you have, on your flash drive, you have all of those ones.
Yeah.
We might just put a link to some of the ones, because some of the ones that are listed in the RFP are actually links to like a deep wetlands.
Okay. I'll work on getting all those on our files and documents.
Rooster River watershed study. There's a couple watershed studies that I don't have physical copies of, but we can link to those.
I'm thinking I'll have Jennifer reshuffle them, so maybe we'll have a folder within the files and documents, and the folder will say master plan reference documents or something.
That'd be a good
then
idea.
all those reference things will be in that one.
And some of them can be, honestly, I think some of them
if
can
they're
be
links, yeah. Okay.
Like the MetroCog one should be a link, for example. We should have the MetroCog, because there's no reason for us to have that listed under the site, really.
Okay. All right, I'll do that.
Thank you, Dick. I appreciate that.
That's all I have.
All right, is there any other new business that needs to come before the board? That being said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Okay, motion to adjourn.
I will second that motion.
Okay, so moved. We are now adjourned. Thank you all for dialing in. Chuck, I hope you feel better. Peter, thank you for continuing to be on.
And proving to go to her second job.
Yeah.
Holy cow, that was a record.
I know.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.